Hello and welcome to the Monroe Method Clancast. I'm Jason Monroe. This is episode 119. Let's dive right in. There is this ridiculous idea that when you decide that you want to lose weight, you must decide to go on a diet and never stop for anything, ever. And there seems to be this standardized idea of dieting. Like if you could take 100 people, 200 or 300 of you listen to these episodes, right? If I could get all of you to write down what your idea, like your kind of standard diet, what does a diet mean to you? Like when you go on a diet, what do you do? Well, what I do is I eat less, I move more, I step on the scales once a week. After I've stepped on the scales, I reward myself with a Chinese, or I have a day off at the weekend so I don't feel restricted and whatever else, right? I drink lots of water, I stop eating crisps and chocolate and sweets. So there is a kind of standardized idea. And part of that is this idea that when you decide you are going on a weight loss journey, you treat it like a car journey. Like you jump in the car and you drive for 4 hours until you get to your destination. With a couple of, and the only time you stop is to go to the toilet. But a weight loss journey isn't like that, because life is not like that. One of the biggest mistakes that people make, and I always bring this up, I know, but it's when you play the numbers game. You've got £100 to lose. You do not want it to take 100 weeks. You do not want to lose £1 a week. You want it to take half that time. You want to lose £2 a week. And you get it into your head that you are somehow, when you've not managed so far, when you've not managed to diet any day whatsoever, when you keep failing every time you start, you still hold on to this idea that some magical thing is going to happen that is suddenly going to lead to you managing to do the things to lose £2 a week every week for the next 50 weeks, right? It's redonkulous. It is never going to happen. And it doesn't have to. So this idea that you have to do it all at once, that you have to do it all in the one go, it's ridiculous. I always come back to Marnie. Marnie is an incredible example of someone who did it the absolute best way possible. Marnie worked with me from 2018. She was one of the earlier members. From 2018 through to 2019, 18 months. We went through... I don't think we went through 2 Christmases. I think we went through 1 Christmas, 2 summers. Now, she had kids who were at school. Marnie, she still drank back then. She doesn't so much now, but back then she still drank. She still went to the football. She still went away for weekends. She still had holidays. She went through 2 Christmas and New Year's. And Marnie lost £101 over an 18-month period. Now, you could easily sit there and say, okay, so that's 78 weeks and she lost £101. So she lost 1 point something, and it didn't work like that. It wasn't 2019 because it was during lockdown as well when she was doing millions of steps. She was doing there was nothing else to do. So towards the end, I think she was going out walking quite a lot. Maybe it was 2019 into 2020 anyway. Regardless, she lost £101 over 18 months. Now, the time it took has got nothing to do with anything. And this is one of the biggest problems. Like, when people are trying to find out about weight loss and diets and what did you do, how long did it take, how long it took means nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because that question is based on your idea or your belief that people go on diets and then never stop. You do not have to do it all at once. And here's why most people won't do it all at once. Let's say you have a significant amount of weight to lose. We're not trying to lose 5 to 10 pounds or even just a stone. We're trying to lose 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stone. You might need to take breaks for a variety of reasons. Not just like the kind of forced ones throughout the year when the kids are off school and it's half term, summer holidays, weekends away, birthdays, social gatherings, all these things that come up in between. There will be other things, such as, we spoke about this a few episodes as well, the roadblocks that you run into. So you might lose your first 3 stone and you can't get any farther. You might have to stop to work on your mental health, to work on your anxiety, to work on your relationship with food, to work on stress management, like whatever the thing is, to lay down boundaries, to have difficult discussions with your partner about the suggestions they keep making about takeaways and eating out because it doesn't help you. So when you run into these roadblocks, it might put a pause on weight loss. You have to be okay with that, because if you're not, you'll frustrate yourself. Something I see people doing all the time is trying to force weight loss. So let's say that person lost that first 3 stone relatively easily. The scales were coming down every week. They were quite motivated. They wanted to keep doing the things. They're meal planning. They're eating a balanced diet. They're walking. They're feeling great. And every time they step on the scales, every few days, they see it come down a little bit. And that's enough to motivate them to keep going. And then they run into their first roadblock and they cannot understand it. And this is when people get really annoyed. How have I managed to do this for the last 6 months and I've lost 3 stone? Like, why is it not working? I'm doing all the same things, or at least you think you are. I'm doing all the same things and it's not doing anything. And you force it and force it and force it, and you become more and more and more frustrated. And this is when people start to give up, instead of realizing that. And it's not. What do you call it? What do people call it? What do people call it? A plateau. That's it. You've not run into a weight loss plateau. You've run into one of these roadblocks that we spoke about in that episode not long ago, where it's like, right, you have now reached a point that you cannot get by with the things that you're doing. What you're eating isn't enough, what you're doing isn't enough, you've run into something that's stopping you moving farther. We're going to pause fat loss just now. That doesn't mean that it's not going to happen, it can still happen, but we're just going to take 70% of your attention off it, and we're going to shift that over to discovering what this other thing is. And then we get to the bottom of it where we find out, well, actually, every time I come home from work and I step through the door, I'm quite hungry. And so I go to the cupboards and start snacking. And I've not been tracking it, but then I go and eat my dinner afterwards because I've done it in secret and I need everybody to see me eating my dinner because I don't want to cause a drama. I don't want any questions. And then there could be a couple of other things. And it's like, right, let's work on that. Like, why is that happening? Why are you allowing yourself to get so hungry? Well, because I'm having my lunch and then I'm trying to keep myself from my dinner because I don't want to ruin my dinner. I'm like, yeah, but look what's happening. You're ruining your dinner by trying not to ruin your dinner, because instead of having something in the afternoon, hours before your dinner, you're getting in the house and eating everything in sight because you're so hungry while you're making your dinner. And it could be something as simple as that. So we work on that and then we say, right, let's get back to the fat loss stuff. You're now going to make sure that every day when you're at work, you have a planned and intentional afternoon snack that will fill you up enough to take you to dinner time to overcome this pre-dinner snacking stuff. And then their weight starts moving again. Is that not far better than beating your head off a wall and getting absolutely nowhere? So, like I said, I say this all the time to clients, weight loss is not something that you have to do all in one go. Now, you might have heard, I don't talk about this a lot because I don't do it anymore because it's a waste of time and it's unnecessary. So in the beginning, when I was a freshly qualified nutritionist, I had all the stuff, I had all the information, all the knowledge, all the stuff at my fingertips. I had already set up this thing where I'm like, right, once I've had people dieting for 3 months, I am going to put them on a diet break or a refeed. And here is the truth, right? You do not, my clients anyway, I'm not going to say you because I don't know you, my clients do not need that stuff, and here is why. So let's say that you are one of these rare people that come along who does stay in a calorie deficit for 5 or 6 months, and you do not have a life, you do not have a social life, you don't go out for dinner, you don't have drinks, you never have a day where you never have a day off, basically, right? That does not happen very often. There are places where that does happen. There are certain extreme programs with PTs where people pay thousands of pounds and are closely monitored, and they do go through that, and it's all very, very controlled. And it's like, right, you will be in this 4-month diet phase, then you're going to have a 2-week maintenance break, then you're going to go back into a 3-month extreme diet phase. That's fine. there is a time and place for things like maintenance breaks and refeeds. And it's not that I just don't do them at all. It's that I don't need to do them because my members do it themselves. And the question comes up a lot like, oh, do I need to do one of these refeeds? Do I need to have a break to reset my metabolism? And I'll go back through their tracking and I'll say, see that weekend there when you went away and you had 2,500 calories that day and 3,000 calories that day? That was your refeed. You've already done it. Except we didn't call it a refeed. We didn't have you sitting in the house eating lots of food to, I don't know, whatever it does. It doesn't reset your metabolism. It just gives you a break from a deficit, that's all. Physical and mental break. That's all a refeed is. So it's like, yeah, you've already done it. And I think this is one of the great things, one of the many great things about the way that I do things and the way we do things inside the Monroe Method is that I make these things happen without people even noticing it. Like, they don't realise that me encouraging them to have a life while losing weight is actually benefiting them. It's helping them lose more weight long term. Because when you are one of those people who does go into an extreme deficit for a prolonged period of time, yes, your metabolism starts to adapt. Yes, your body starts to push back against it. It will make you more hungry. It will make you want to move less. It's not dramatic, but it's still there and it does still slow things down. So when you have an approach as inclusive as what we have inside the Monroe Method, that is very balanced, very inclusive, includes all foods, encourages people to have their nights, provided they're having a positive impact. Like if somebody's going out and overdoing it, then that's a different conversation. But to have your nights out, to have your meals out, to have your catch up with friends. I've done this loads of times this week where I'll sit with the tracking in front of me, the screenshots, and say, right, over the last 2 weeks, you had 11 days in a calorie deficit. That day there was quite high, but it's fine. Because if we take those calories and add them onto the next day, those two work out as 2 days of maintenance. And then this other day when it was your birthday and your calories were higher, that was another day at maintenance. So instead of 14 days of a calorie deficit and losing around 2 pounds this week, you've had 11 days. I don't know if I said 11 to start with. I lost the numbers. I think it was. You've had 11 days in a calorie deficit and you've lost around 1.8 pounds this fortnight. And you've still had a life, and your body got a break from a deficit for 3 days, so it doesn't think that it's in a consistent and a persistent calorie deficit. And it's helping you, it's benefiting you in the long run, because it will allow you to lose weight for longer. At a good pace for longer. So, and then something will come along, so my kids will be off school. Wait a minute, no they won't. It's a little while till Easter, yeah, it's only February. My kids will be off school for February, right? I know there's half terms all over the place. I've seen people talking about half term coming up soon somewhere. But your kids will be off school, and you might take some time off work, and it might be days out and picnics and adventures or a weekend away, maybe even a holiday. And that's fine. It's not a negative thing. You're not going to go backwards. You're not going to undo all your hard work. All you're doing is pausing your progress for a day or a weekend or a week. You've still lost whatever you've lost. You know, if you've lost 2 stone and you take 1 week off to go to maintenance for a week, you don't undo anything. You don't go backwards. You don't miss out on anything. Yes, you don't lose your pound that week or your pound and a half or whatever it is, but you got to take a break from a deficit, a mental and physical rest from the restriction you've been under, which works wonders for the long term, because you get to come back fresh and recharged and ready to go at it again. You get to make memories with your kids. You get to eat yummy food that you maybe not got to eat for a couple of months because it's been a bit out of reach or you've not had it as often as you liked. And once that week's over, everybody goes back to school, off you go again. You didn't gain anything, you didn't undo anything, you didn't go backwards, you didn't damage anything. You just paused your fat loss progress so you could enjoy a week of better living. And now we get back to it again for another couple of months until the next thing comes up. Think of it this way, right? You know, people love the idea of losing 2 and 3 pounds in a week. Love it. Especially when you're getting to like 3 and 4 pounds. They must love it when Slimming World consultants, I nearly said something mean then, when Slimming World consultants post these things at Christmas and Halloween and blah, 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 and it's like, if you lose, 16 weeks till Christmas, if you lose 14 weeks till Christmas, lose £1 a week, you've lost a stone. Lose £2 a week, you've lost 2 stone. £3, £4. Some of them even have the audacity to go to £5. You're like, are you on drugs? When have you ever seen someone lose £5 every week for 14 weeks, you imbecile? But they do it to create this ridiculous fairy tale fantasy that, oh, this could be you. Well, if a Slimming World consultant's saying it, that must have happened. No, it's never happened in the history of ever. What was the point there? Okay, so let's say that I set up your diet for you to lose £2 a week. And I say to you, right, Susan, here's what I want you to follow. And you're going to follow it for 50 weeks from the 1st of January until the middle of December, and then you're going to stop at Christmas, right? If you do this for 50 weeks, you will be £100 lighter on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve or whatever it is, like middle of December. Now you could look at that and say, wow, really? I'll be £100 lighter. You promise I'll be 100, I'll guarantee it. But I'm only guaranteeing it if you follow it. It's not just going to happen. If you do this every week for the next 50 weeks, I will guarantee it that you will be £100 lighter. And you go, oh my God, all I need to do is follow this. So off you go, and you manage it for the first month. And then you start to get fed up and you have a week off. That week turns into a month. And then you come back to me 2 months later and say, Jason, I'm back at the same weight I was in January, right? That's 2 months wasted because you tried to go too hard. So this idea, like, it's a wonderful idea. It's great when you run the numbers. It's great when you think about it and fantasize about it. But when you try to bring it into reality, when you try to actually make it happen, when you actually have to live through those 50 weeks and manage your eating habits and watch other people eating and see other people sitting in restaurants having things you'd rather be eating, going to your bed at 9 o'clock because you know how important it is for your hunger levels the next day when you really want to sit up and watch something late at night for once, you can't keep it up. Think of it this way. In that same situation, let's say that I've handed that person a plan, like I just said, that will help them lose £100, and they spend 50 weeks battling every single day, every single week to stick to it, and they only manage to 25% of the time. And they have spent 50 weeks struggling and fighting and doing everything they can to try and force themselves to follow this thing. And they get to December and they're 2 stone lighter, 28 pounds lighter. They're not the 100 pounds they wanted. And then they come back to me and say, oh, but you said, no, I said, if you follow this thing, that does not mean trying to follow it. You actually had to follow it. This is what would have happened. This has not happened, so you have not followed it. You have some of the time, you've managed some of the time, but it's not happened because you wanted to go far too hard. And I told you back then you were wanting to go far too hard, but you were determined that you wanted to lose £2 a week. Now, let's change the scenario and let's say that that person was very happy to make half the progress. So remember, to lose £2 a week, you need to eat 1,000 calories less per day. If somebody has 100 odd pounds to lose, then they're going to be burning over 2,000 a day. So let's say 2,300. So that person would have to eat 1,300 calories a day every day for a year, basically. It was never going to happen. But let's say we changed the scenario and we said, okay, let's aim for half of the progress. So we're going to try and lose 50 pounds this year, which means you only need to eat 500 calories less per day. And then what happens is the person can stick to it much more easily. It's not as much of a battle. It's not as much of a challenge. Are they going to lose 50 pounds? Probably not. Because it's still a fantasy. the idea that you're going to do this thing every week without fail for 50 weeks. But compared to the £2 a week that they could only manage 25% of the time, the £1 a week they can manage 80% of the time. So they get to the end of the year, and instead of losing £28, and remember that £28 they have fought tooth and nail, there have been tears, upsets, sleepless nights, hungry days, stress, anxiety, depression, feeling like a failure. Like, think of all the things that would happen when you can repeatedly fail to do the thing you said you were going to do. 25% sticking to it, but the entire year has been one you would like to forget. Versus aiming for half the progress, sticking to it 80% of the time, because you still need to take time off for school holidays and weekends away and birthdays, blah, blah, blah. And it not feeling like a battle, it feeling realistic, something sustainable, something you have managed to keep up with most of the time, something that you feel proud of because you managed to stick to it 80% of the time, which is mega, rather than feeling like a failure because you've only managed 25% of the time. So not only have you had a much more enjoyable week, not only have you enjoyed the food that you're eating, still been able to have a life, not had sleepless nights. Yes, you've had some disappointments with the scales when they've not done what you've done, but it's not been anywhere near the level of disappointment that you've experienced with the other approach. And then you get to Christmas and you're £40 lighter. Now, what's better? Aiming for 100 and losing 28, or aiming for 50 and losing 40? What was the topic today? Oh yeah, doing it all at once. You should see my arms waving around on my other arm that doesn't have the microphone in it when I'm doing this. It feels like TED Talk stuff. So anyway, you do not have to do it all at once. Like, some of the best people I have worked with for at least a year. Those are the people, and that's not me saying like you have to come and work with me for a year if you want to be successful. It's just all the testimonials that I share, most of the in-depth ones, not just the kind of before and after pictures with like a little blurb. Most of those people were just in for like a few months or whatever, and that's fine. But if you go on my website, there's a page, my terrible website, there's a page that says testimonials, and it's in-depth, mega in-depth things. I worked with all of those people for at least 12 months, 12 to 18 months. And they are all people who have went on to maintain their weight afterwards. And it's not that you have to work with someone for 12 months, but what it means is, I know that if I work with someone for 12 months, I will go through most of life's challenges with them. Maybe not most. Most of a year's challenges would be more suitable. I've went through a Christmas, I've went through a summer, I went through an Easter, I've went through Halloween, I've been through their birthday and everybody's birthday around them, their anniversary, weekends away, holidays if I didn't say that already, days out with the kids, etc. Because every one of those things, something happens and they come back to their check-in and said, oh, it's been half term, we've had lots of days out and picnics and I've been doing this. Awesome, let's talk about it. Let's dig into it, let's understand it. So that when you get to the summer and you go away on holiday, you're a little bit more knowledgeable and more clued up about the way that you think and do things, so that time can go better. And then once we get through all the summer stuff, we go into Christmas and you've learned more about yourself. And you go in and navigate Christmas brilliantly. So it's a bit of a weird thing where it's like, yes, you want it to happen in the shortest time possible, but you also want to learn as much about yourself as you can, because it's what you learn about yourself that will determine how long your weight loss lasts for. People who lose weight without learning anything, they yo-yo diet. They immediately put the weight back on because they were just doing it for a number on a scale. They haven't learned anything about their disordered eating. Come on, you don't go in that water. They don't learn anything about their disordered eating, about their mindset, about the way they think about food, the way that they use food. All they managed to do was stick to a plan they were given long enough to make the scales come down. And that's the problem. People want to bypass all the hardest work. Not to say that losing weight isn't hard work, but the hardest work is really exposing yourself, making yourself vulnerable, and working on the under the surface stuff, the stuff that tends to get ignored. Oh, dear me. I'm out of breath after that. So, I hope that has been helpful. So let's get rid of this idea that the day that you decide you are going on a diet, you have to stay on that diet until you reach a number on the scale that you want to see, right? It's just ridiculous. It's nonsense. You don't need to do it. You could go into a deficit for 3 months and then take a month off. You could go in a deficit for 5 months, take 2 months off over the summer holidays. Now, remember, when I say these things, I'm talking about if people were working with me. I can only talk about the way that I do things, because I know that if someone takes 2 months off, they're going to act in a way that would mostly lead to maintenance. If you're someone who doesn't work with me, if you're following Slimming World or Weight Watchers, your idea of taking 2 months off might be yo-yo dieting. So great, I can take 2 months off now, and then you go and put all the weight back on again. When I say 2 months off, I mean the absence of a calorie deficit. That's what I mean. So you've had 5 months of being in a calorie deficit and seeing your weight come down, and you have lost 30 pounds. 2 stone, actually. Let's say 2 stone. And then you take a couple of months off over the summer, and now it's unrealistic to expect yourself not to regain any weight, but you lose 2 stone, and over the summer, you put on 3 pounds. And then it gets to September, or whenever your summer ends. Our schools go back at the start of September. Then it gets to September, schools go back, and you go, right, that's me. I'm back in again until Christmas. And you do September, October, November, another 3 months, another 20 pounds lost, and you say, cool, I'm going to take December off. You have still lost nearly 50 pounds that year. And it helps you get out of the mindset of this constant diet, right? People just get lost in the diet, always on a diet. Every day I'm waking up and I'm dieting because I'm trying to make my weight come down. Imagine going into a year and saying, right, January, February, March, April, or January, February, March are going to be calorie deficit months. 2 weeks in April is going to be maintenance because it's Easter. Then from mid-April into May into June is going to be calorie deficit. July and August will be maintenance through summer. September, October, November is going to be a deficit. And by Christmas, I'll have reached my goal. Nobody does that. You will not meet anybody who acts like that. Everybody just says, I have got 4 stone to lose, so I'm going on a diet. Oh, I just hit myself in the face with the lead. Oh, dearie me. Anyway, that's enough from me. I'm back at the main road. So, hope that's been helpful. Got you thinking differently. Until next time.